So
awesome. Love
He's
it.
been around for a while.
he's been around. You've probably seen him at camps.
Or not, because I haven't gone to the camps. So
Yeah,
Shameless plug.
it's actually something we need to talk to you about.
Yeah.
As an area pastor,
I've dropped him off.
Yeah.
actually, I think my last year helping you guys out, Brenton, he just dropped his wife off, and that was
Yeah.
That was one of the people I dropped off.
I might be doing that this year.
And then went to marriage counseling afterwards.
No, I dropped her off and 2 of our daughters, and then I took the other 2 and gave them to her parents, and then I had a week where I could just hang out.
Yeah.
So you definitely went to marriage counseling afterwards.
So she went to camp and I went on a retreat, and then
Yeah.
and then I went to therapy.
Well, welcome back to the Ministry Without Hating It podcast, a ministry of Odyssey Haven coaching and counseling dedicated to the pursuit of answering the question, is it possible to do ministry without hating it? We have a theory that just might be. Brenton,
Yes.
how's it going?
It's great, man.
Is it?
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Good time to be alive.
Okay.
You know,
You are oozing positivity.
I love my life.
Good.
And
I feel like you just stole that from our guest.
yeah,
It's literally
I did.
what he said. Brenton, we just had a great conversation with our friend Jordan Wall.
We did.
We did. And this is not to spoil anything, but it starts off, and he uses the word simple to describe himself. And, you know, when you think that on the surface, especially as ministry leaders, we oftentimes want to overlook that because I think we either you know, oversimplify something or we make it harder than it has to be. But that doesn't seem like it's enough. And I really, really appreciate he tells us his story of how that has not just been something that defines him, but also defines his approach and perspective of ministry and how that has played out within his ministry life, but also his family and his marriage and all of the things. And just really, really appreciated this conversation.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. So I don't want to make this more than it has to be. Let's just keep it simple. So without further ado, we hope you enjoy our conversation with our friend, Pastor Jordan Wall. Well, it is our privilege to host, well, he's our friend, but I'm still getting to know him, even in this very interview. This is Pastor Jordan Wall. Jordan, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
All right, so we like to start with questions that have nothing to do with ministry, but need to be asked anyways. And our go-to from the very beginning for this is describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh
wow.
That's I don't know. Really, I think simple.
Okay.
Boring.
This is going in a great direction already.
I don't know how you describe yourself. You know, it's kind of, I don't know. I think fun. I think I'm fun. I hope I'm fun. I used to get in trouble all the time for being fun. So I had too much fun.
Does this feel like the interview where you're trying to get a job and they're like, tell us your weaknesses?
Yes.
Oh gosh, not to me. I just, you know,
my biggest weakness is I care too much. I care too much, and I overexert myself in these things. And So how can you be boring?
I'm intentional.
How can you be boring and fun at the same time? Just curious.
I think I make myself laugh. No, I'm joking. I don't ever think about how to describe myself. So, I don't know. I think I'm just, I would say I'm focused, I'm driven. But I'm simple. Like I'm kind of plain. So It's really what it is.
I like it.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. Like,
Oh, I'm playing. Thanks. I appreciate
You
it.
would agree he's basic? That's great. That's
But yeah, you're pretty boring and plain.
So-
Thanks, man. I appreciate that, Brandon.
This might be the worst launch into an interview that we have ever done. And so I just want to say I'm sorry.
What's your Starbucks order?
Oh, wow.
You really want it? Okay, I just got back from Starbucks.
Yeah.
And,
This isn't even one of the questions. That's great.
It's a plain coffee. Literally, just give me a coffee. Just give me a coffee. Yeah,
I like it.
I like lattes and all that, but especially now that they have those mugs, they brought the mugs back. I'm like, give me the refill. So I'll just give me a coffee, and I'll put a little bit of raw sugar in there, and some half and half, and I'm good.
Wow.
And I'll sit there for hours and I told you, I feel like I'm decently pragmatic. Like I'm plain. I'm like,
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's fine. All right. What did you want to be when you grew up?
when I grew up, I wanted to be a professional football player.
Okay.
I even wrote a speech about it. I was in elementary school, and there was a speech contest called When I Grow Up. It was part of McDonald's Foundation or something.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, and so I came in third in the state finals for it, and so that was my dream for a long time, and that was what I was working toward until God got a hold of me. So that was it, and that was probably never really going to happen, but it was a dream.
Yeah, well, yeah. I've had those dreams.
Hey, it can happen. I had a youth student that would skip his football practice to come play drums because he made a commitment to play drums, and he was drafted by the Carolina Panthers the year they went to the Super Bowl. And so his first year in the NFL, he was like,
and that's how Cam Newton came out of Brenton's.
That's called a physical freak right there.
Yeah.
If you're doing all that. Yeah.
He was undersized. He was not he defied so many of the things. So
he's like, no, that's not it.
No, not at all. It just, it's because he was in my youth group.
Did not have any skill. That's what that.
Yeah, he was the guy holding the clipboard on the sidelines. Let's just
I got a buddy who played in the NFL, and every time I'm hanging out with him and around him, I just think, there's a difference. Like he played my position. The position I played. And I just think, yes, there's a reason I did not make it and really would not have made that. Like, yes. So,
yeah. It's painfully aware. I understand.
It's good to know your limitations.
Yeah. Now that'll preach.
Yeah.
That'll preach. Okay. So what, before we pivot, what do you find exciting, or what are you looking forward to in life right now?
Well, I love traveling. So I think, we got some few things coming down. I don't know. I think right now, we're getting some chickens.
Yeah, buddy.
So
speaking my language.
Be careful. Don't get him started.
Yeah. So doing that's a new thing for me. Never done anything like that. So I'm excited about that. I don't know, man. I'm loving life. I'm really just, I'm loving the grind, of like the process of life. Got kids growing up, got a teenager in the house now, and loving seeing her grow up, like turning into a young woman. Like it's really cool. But I'm excited about this Sunday. I enjoy life. So I think
that's great. That's great. So let me shift away from that. Tell us, if you want to start at the beginning, if you want to start where you're at and work backwards, you can. But what is your ministry story? How have you found yourself where you are right now?
Yeah. None of it is like exciting, honestly. I think it's just staying the course. So when I was about 14, I went to Camp Hickory, actually. That was the first time I'd ever gone to Camp Hickory, and met a guy there by the name of Lionel Mendoza.
Oh, yeah.
Love that guy. In fact, my son's name is Lion. That's how much I love him. He had such a huge influence on me in my teenage years. I really wanted to be him. I thought that I want to work at camp. Like that's what I saw him at all the time. So it's like, I want to, at that time it was Great Lakes District. And so, for Foursquare. So, I thought, man, ministry, if I was called in, I want to do what Lion does, which is, he was the youth director for Great Lakes. So I thought that would be the ultimate thing. But felt called to ministry, in high school. Had my ups and downs as a teenager with lifestyle, matching faith, profession. But really I was about 17. I was actually going into, for football, going into Hell Week my senior year, and ran into my former pastor, who just didn't know really what was going on in my life. But he must have heard the Lord that said, hey, you need to go to camp. And I hadn't been in camp in a couple of years, and said my relationship with God wasn't the greatest. And I said, hey, I can't. I got Hell Week, and I had a rough year the year before with getting in some trouble and such. And so I thought, this is actually like, I'm trying to get a scholarship. Was talking to a couple of different schools, small schools, about potentially being able to play there. And so I knew my senior year of high school, this is a big deal if I don't have an offer or anything. And I had some friends that were getting offers, and he went behind my back and talked to my parents and said, hey, your son needs to go to camp and not a Hell Weekend. I'm thinking, this is what my life is going to be, is football, or at least college. So I'm going to play at least some college ball. Yeah. And
that's an important week of training, by the way, for those who don't know what Hell Week is. Yeah. Because we had it.
It is the week. Yeah.
It's intense. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And if you're not there, you're basically saying I'm not a part of the team.
Right. Right.
And so unless you are like amazing, forget your playing time, forget your role, forget your position, forget the potential that you had. It was a unanimous decision that I would be going to, that summer I was going to all the football camps and, all of it. And so I was really geared up. I put my weight up. I was there, and, I was so mad. But when I got there, I ended up going to camp. I met God in a fresh way, had an encounter with him, recommitted my life to him. And really, I felt like the Lord was reaffirming the call. Like, I've called you into the ministry. Knew exactly where I was supposed to go to college. So I went to, at the time, Life Bible College, which while I was there became Life Pacific. So moved literally that next year, moved to California, started going to a church called The Rock that year, and really just stayed there. Like I attended The Rock from, I had about a 6-month, hiatus from there, but that was because I had met a girl who was going to another church. We broke up, and I went back to The Rock, and really I stayed there. I had a bunch of issues I was working through, different things that I would, strongholds that were on me that really needed to get dealt with. So I was there throughout college, did an internship afterwards, and jumped into the creative. So I was doing video editing and sound and all that, and then jumped into worship. From there, came on staff at The Rock. And I attended The Rock for about 20 years, from like 2001, minus that 6 months, to 2021. And I played a lot of different roles. And, everyone, it's funny, everyone has like, when you're in Bible college, everyone's talking about what they're called to.
Okay.
Right. So I'm called to be a senior pastor, and I'm called to this, and I'm called to that. And I thought I was called to youth ministry. I thought I was going to be a youth pastor. And then while I was there, it was like, I don't know if this, I I don't know, but I wanted to have a thing. And I asked God, what's my call? Like everybody has this big, like, I'm going to do this and this. And I just heard the Lord simply say, I've called you to serve my house.
Oh,
And I thought, whoa. And that's what it is. That's your call, is
Yep.
to serve my house. And it made everything actually really simple, because it, like, every opportunity or every position that I was given, I never asked for. I desired things, but I knew I don't promote myself. I just serve the house. And so if my pastor asks me to run sound, is it a part of serving the house? Yeah. And he hasn't called me away from this place, so this is the house I'm serving. And then if my pastor asks me to do facilities, yeah, I'll do it. If my pastor asks me to do operations, do finances, do kids, I'll do it. Even if I don't want to, it's serving the house. If my pastor asks me to lead worship, which I did for over 10 years, I'll do it. And I think it helped when my roles shifted, because I wasn't tied to it.
yeah.
Like
That's good.
you know what I mean? Like, obviously you love what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
but my identity wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And so it kept me, and I think that was the Lord's, and it has been the Lord's saving grace, I think, maybe for me, which has been when I'm discouraged, or those hard moments, those seasons where I want to quit, or I've wanted to quit, or I felt like I was being done wrong, or whatever it might be, or looked over, passed over, whatever.
Yeah.
Coming back to that original call, which is serve my house.
Yeah.
So there was, you know what I mean? There was no I didn't have expectation. It was just, I'm just serving. And by the grace of God, I've been able to do it full time for about 20 years in different roles. And so at the Rock, I played a lot of different roles. Was at the Central campus for a season, and then working in the creative. And then I moved out to Michigan, actually. And that's where I started leading worship. That's where I met my wife, started our family right here in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where we have church now, where we serve. Did that for about 10 years, and then was actually invited back to the Central campus in Anaheim, where we went there as creative pastors. And then things opened up, and I was invited to take on the role of worship pastor for the Rock out there.
Okay.
And so if you know anything about the Rock or Foursquare, the worship pastor there was the senior pastor's brother.
Mm-hmm.
And he had been the worship pastor since day one.
Mm-hmm.
And so those were the shoes I was filling.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
Pretty intimidating. It was not easy.
Yeah.
It was, large congregation, large church. So a lot of responsibilities, a lot of increased responsibilities. Did that in that role for about 1.5 years, 2 years, and then was invited or asked to start helping plant churches with the Rock. So that was probably the hardest shift in ministry that season, because
Why's that? Yeah, go ahead.
I had been doing work. I had been leading worship for so long.
Okay.
Even though I played multiple roles within leading worship, the center of what I did always went back to worship.
Okay.
So I may have been doing operations or youth, playing multiple, that's ministry, right? You play multiple hats and seasons. But at the core of it, I was worship. And at that church, I was the worship pastor or a worship pastor. So that's how people viewed me. So it's funny because everything goes back to just serve my house.
Right.
But you don't even realize that, oh man, my identity has gotten caught up in this role.
Yeah.
This title. So I remember, and then the insecurities, because you're feeling, to me, a giant, you're filling their shoes. Someone that is much more proficient, much better than you. I think greater anointing in leading worship in David Dearman, and then, all these expectations of, you're feeling all that. So you're kind of walking through some insecurities a lot of, am I doing a good job? And you think you're doing good. And what's funny with ministry is, if we're pastors, our job is to equip people to do it. Our job is not actually to do it, right?
Yeah.
So my role was to raise up more worship leaders. And I did it. I did it so well that we had a conversation about, I don't need to be on platform anymore.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's humbling, isn't it?
And if you're stuck on yourself of like, well, me, it's a blow to ego. You start to feel insecure of like, man, am I just not very good anymore?
Yeah.
And you're used to spotlight. You're used to, just the realities. You're used to those traps, and you start thinking, well, I'm part of a mega church now, and I'm a worship pastor at this mega. Like, I'm leading this large choir and all these teams, and we're doing recordings, and just all these different things that you're a part of, and you forget that you're just a part of.
Yeah.
And so I remember we were sitting in a service. It was wild. So my wife and I were sitting in a service. I got a text from our pastor's assistant, and he says, hey, Pastor Jerry wants to connect with you guys in between services. Are you free? I'm like, sure. I don't know what he wants to talk to us about, but yeah, whatever, talk to him all the time. So we go into the studio in between services, and he asks this question of, hey, have you ever wanted to be a senior pastor, a lead pastor? And I looked at my wife, and I'm like, I'm going to let her answer this thing. And I'm thinking we're safe because she's going to say no. And what comes out of her mouth was surprising to both of us. Yes. And I just kind of looked at her like, why are you cussing? Like, stop.
That is so
stop,
good. That's the best answer I've ever heard. That's
And, because I've watched, my dad was a senior pastor for a couple of years.
okay.
And so I watched the toll, and I've watched lead pastors of campuses, let alone senior pastors, but I've heard the stories. I've seen the abuse that they take, the senior pastors take, like the weight of responsibility, like all of it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I love leading. I love creatives. They're crazy and wild. And there's a lot of repenting in the creative world, but you get to disciple them, and like, it's just fun. And you get to just kind of be free and write songs and produce videos. And, I'm thinking, this is with no responsibility except like, Pastor, what do you want to do? And I love that part of ministry when you're not leading the whole thing, because ultimately my role is just to support your vision. And you're the one that has to give an account to Jesus of how you led his church. I don't. I love that.
Sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then if nothing's going good or the church isn't growing, it's, Pastor, what's your vision? Pastor, what are you going to do? Like, I was always asking my pastors, like, hey, what do you feel like we're supposed to, talking to two senior pastors. So it's that reality. And so we started talking about what that looked like. And he kind of put a timeline out, like, hey, I sense that you guys are supposed to plant a church.
Oh, wow.
And maybe be a lead pastor of one of our campuses, or maybe plant your own. So he threw out some scenarios to us. And I said, well, I'll pray about it. But I was
pray
like,
about it.
But I was really like, I was kind of shook, because I thought, our family had just moved to California. We had moved back to California, 4 years before that. And so I thought we were going to be in California for a long time. And I thought we were going to set roots, and that was it. So it was kind of one of those like, well, if we're not here for very long, if like we're out of here in 2 years, what does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah.
The security financially, all those things just come in. And as a dad, as a husband, you're thinking, I don't want to risk this thing. Like, I don't want to mess my family up. You're making pragmatic decisions. There's just the reality.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry I'm taking so long on this.
No, we're with you.
We, right before COVID hit, or I should say, so we started jumping into helping out and launch a church. So we were helping out launch one of the campuses at the Rock. And I had some goals, like, your goal is to raise up a worship leader, help that church grow to about 200 at least, like 150 to 200. We thought that'd take you about, at the very least, 6 months, but it's a 1 to 2 year commitment. So we thought, okay, so we got this. And then the thought was, after you do that, go on ahead and either plant another campus and you be the lead pastor, or you plant out a church. Like, we'll just see what the Lord says. Well, that church on grand opening, we had 2 worship leaders that we raised up within about 3 months of just pre-launching, trained 2 worship leaders. And then on grand opening, it was over 200 people at the first service in a meeting in a hotel room, in a hotel ballroom. And so I didn't think anything of it, but 2 weeks later, my pastor called me and said, "Hey, you want to come back to Anaheim?" Like come back to the central campus. And I thought, well, I've already been stripped of what I thought I was going to be doing for the next 10 years of worship. That doesn't seem to be what I'll be doing. And I know I'm on this trajectory. And it was serve my house. And so it was, whatever you need. And so I was invited to be the assistant lead pastor and to really be mentored by Jerry for the next year. And that was in the fall of 2019. And it was kind of wild because I'm all excited. I'm like, wow, I'm going to be mentored by Jerry for the next year of how to lead like a church. Like this is like what people would dream of. And about 4 weeks later, he calls me and he goes, "Hey, how would you feel about moving back to Michigan and taking on the campus that we have there?" And I said, "No, that is not God."
That's not it.
He asked us a few times, and finally, like we genuinely prayed. And I just, was real with the Lord. I don't want to move back to Michigan. I love the West Coast. We had been praying about where to plant, and I was thinking San Diego or Sacramento, but I was thinking California is where I'm going to stay. And I love San Diego.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Yeah. And I'm like, I will suffer for you there, Jesus.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Or Hawaii. That's the other two,
or
right?
Hawaii, yeah. I don't know. I'm a little scared to be trapped on an island though. Like
that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
I'm a little nervous on that. But anyway, we said yes because we felt like the Lord really was saying some things about Michigan and about our area. It was interesting, some things that he wanted to do. Fast forward, COVID hits. As soon as we moved back to Michigan, COVID hit about 5 weeks later. So, we're like, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
What did we do?
Yeah.
And so we went through that transition, stayed lead pastors. And then in 2021, I felt like the Lord started stirring me up about planting a church. He said, "Plant a church. Like you're not supposed to be a lead pastor of a campus." And I'm asking the Lord where. And I felt like he said, "Where you are."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I don't know how that works because I'm a lead pastor of a campus. I don't think are we going to move or what? And anyway, through lots of prayer, lots of fasting, finally went to my senior pastor and shared with him what I felt like the Lord was saying about launching. And big smile on his face. We were FaceTiming. And it was so cool. He just said, "God's all over this, man." He said, "Do it. How fast do you want to plan out? What do you want?" And I said, well, I felt like the Lord asked me or was telling me, I don't even know if I told him I felt like the Lord. I felt like the Lord was telling me that I needed for the first time in ministry, ask for something. And I was nervous, and I asked him for the craziest thing, which was, "Would you give me the people and the land?"
Mm-hmm.
What pastor would say yes, except for my pastor? And I really thought he was going to say, that's inappropriate, or, and he just said, "God is all over this. Yes." And so 6 weeks later, we launched Revitalize Church with about 70 people. And we were allowed to use this land, like just to be in this place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was in the summer of 2022. Been doing that, and our church is moving along and growing and seeing new people get saved and added to the church. And that's I know that was a long answer. I'm sorry, but
no, well, it's really interesting actually. And I thank you for taking us on the journey. I think we had some nice little pauses and you pulled some stuff out really well anyway, but I'm noticing, going back to it's, we asked you to describe yourself and you said simple. That was the first thing, and you've reiterated that even a few times. But what stands out to me, which I think is really interesting, is, and that didn't sound like a very big window of these up and down moving, that kind of a thing. And I even think of the thought of, if I planted a church and it was what yours was, and then was asked, hey, you want to come back? I would have been like, no, like, no, I just started this and it's going great. But in your way of being simple, of, no, I'm just called to serve God's house. Even in those moments where you have maybe allowed it to be tied, your identity tied to something that it really shouldn't be, you're able to bring yourself back to that very simple line, which has given you the freedom to be able to see fruit, but also be able to go, this wasn't mine to begin with. I can continue to move on and do something different. I can move across the country to not San Diego and all these things and be okay with it.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I guess so. I didn't really think about it like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're dead men walking. And so I think the hardest thing is when you have somebody with you, and you have, because it's more like thinking about them.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think, but it's like, it was some of these moments of, because those were not easy moments. Like, we had conversations, and I had times of crying and weeping and just scared. I mean, there were big time stressful moments, not knowing if things would work out. Feeling like a poor dad at times, or a poor husband at times, because we just didn't have all of our needs met all the time. Like, I mean, we had some struggles in those seasons.
Yeah.
But I thought about my kids, and here's like, maybe this is the simple part of it, is when my kids, I keep thinking about when they're 18, 17, 16, but when they're at that age where they are expressing or really thinking, am I going to live for Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
And I keep thinking this, I have this thought of, if they look at my life, and if I'm telling them, no matter what, especially in a hostile world toward believers, toward Jesus, when they look at my life, my decisions, can they say, I really practice what I preach, which is, no matter the cost, do whatever God says to do. Yeah. And so when we were thinking about some of those big moves of saying yes or no, knowing that the Lord was saying to do it, or I should say, inviting us on this journey with him, I had them in mind, which was, in 10, 15 years, and if they're struggling in any of their faith, I want to be able to say, I know it's hard. I know it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Like, God, like, follow God no matter what. Look at my life. And so I'm hoping, I want to, hopefully they can look at me and their mom and say, they did it. Like, it's they must believe that this is real. Like, that forget ministry, forget title, forget accomplishments. They must believe that Jesus is real. They must believe that the gospel is true. They must believe that he is worth dying, like that eternity is true. Heaven and hell is true. They must believe it. Otherwise, they would not have made those decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would have taken an easier course, because believe you me, I would have loved to take much easier routes in some stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I'm nodding my head very, very,
you know what I'm talking about.
Aggressively.
We've all done those things.
Yes. Absolutely.
And so, but I think, you know what I mean? It's like, especially as dads, you just kind of go, forget the title of like pastor.
Yeah.
I'm a dad.
Yeah.
I want to have credibility with my kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, anyway, I think that's, obviously I want to honor God, but he's given me these 4 amazing kids to steward and to be an example to. So, I think
Yeah.
that's part of it.
Absolutely. And I think too, I would agree with all that and add on. I at the end of this, I don't want my kids to resent God's church either. And I know that, like you said, it's tough. They have, they have seen us weep and carry these things and all of those things. And I do my very best to try to separate that this is not a total representation of who God is, who God's church is. These are people walking through people things, just like you are, just like I am, at the end of the day. And that's not an easy thing. That's not an easy thing to do. But I love how you, once again, you simplified that for us. And that's a great word. It really is. It's just that, like, at the end of the day, this is who I am. This is who God has entrusted me with, and all these other things are His things.
Yeah.
As well. That's really well said. I'm curious. You've kind of already said this, and I almost want to reframe the question a little bit differently, because normally we would ask, what does the word ministry mean to you? And I think you have defined that. Maybe if that is the definition, or if you want to change, if maybe add on to, we're called to just serve my house, right? As ministry. But how is that played out in a practical sense, that it doesn't tie to something that is a burden? Because it can be really easy. You're talking about these different shifts and these things, that, I've had these different roles and I keep getting asked whatever, and I'm just following my leader who's following the leader and all those things. But now that you're the guy, how are you able to do this without, I mean, just to say it, do it without hating it, or having, at least an apathetic approach to it?
Wow. Well, I don't know. I will give you the Sunday school answer first, and it is Jesus. Good. It is the grace of God completely, because my flesh wants to wild out. Like, there's a reason I'm simple. It's not just because I'm simple. It's because I've chosen to die, and I'm choosing to die every day. Like, I just finished having a meeting with her, like a dream team party a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what I was thinking. I got up in front of the dream team, and it's supposed to be this, like, we're heading into Easter and it's going to be a heart, all this. And I don't know why it came out of my mouth, but I just said, I'm inviting you to die with me, And I'm watching, and I'm watching people drink like soda and stuff, and I'm like, there's no Kool-Aid though. Don't worry. There's no Kool-Aid. Everybody.
Wow. Nice.
Because in my mind I'm thinking, like, why did I just say that? Like, what in the world? But I think, like, the kingdom is a paradox, right? Everything is upside down versus the world. And I think for me, I've had to resolve in my heart to not, it's almost like, and my wife helps me with this, not to, I don't know if this makes sense, but not to necessarily compartmentalize ministry and life and separate those two. Mm-hmm. My life is ministry.
Yeah.
Like, before a title of pastor ever was put in front of my name, because my name is not Pastor Jordan.
Right.
Like, it's not. And I get bugged when I hear people introduce themselves as, hi, my name, I've heard people, my name is Pastor, my name is Bishop, and I just kind of go, when did that become your name?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if I'm really honest with myself, when I read Ephesians 4, I am the least of the church. So how about I keep myself in proper perspective?
Yeah, that's good.
I'm not the superstar. I'm probably the least anointed.
Yeah.
Because he takes the weak things to lead the strong.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Right? He takes the things that are like stupid to confound the wise.
Yeah.
So then I think, and you've put me in front of all these people, God. What are you saying about me?
I am.
That's really it. I've never actually thought of it that way. It's humbling and humiliating at the same time. So let's keep going. That's good.
Yeah.
That's
So
good.
like even in my own home, I used to, because I led worship and I wrote songs and I, did this stuff for so long. And my wife, when we got married, she wasn't doing any of that. Like she came into worship and such kind of through me. Her dad is an incredible artist, incredible musician. Like his last name is Hendrix. Like I'm just literally. So I married into the Hendrix family, but they're all white.
Okay.
And I'm not full white, so because this is not, they can't see me, right? So
No, they're listening to you.
But I am half, I'm mixed. So anyway, I have discovered, because now I'm not leading worship, I'm leading the church, but my wife is leading worship. There's a few things that make me laugh and it humbles me. First, I have noticed, especially as my kids are getting older, I thought I was the most creative. I am the least creative in my home. I thought I was super talented. I am the least talented in my home, is what I see. Even on our, like the disc profile, all those tests, I always score like a high D. Those the numbers and stuff. My wife is a higher D than I am. Yet she allows me to lead her. She's more creative than me, I think more talented than me. She won't admit it, but she plays like 4 instruments and has a great ear, like super kind, super loving, when I think I've got it nailed down and then I see my wife, I just kind of go, why am I leading? Like, why is it me? And then you go back to he takes the stupid things to shame the wise. Like, you know what I mean? So
no, it's great perspective.
But I think regardless, like our life, okay, so I know the podcast is like, what is it? What is this like? Can I do ministry without hating it? Basically, that's the question we're trying to answer.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think if we view our life properly, it's supposed to be a life of ministry. Wherever I go.
Yeah.
So I don't turn off. My job maybe turns off at different moments, but I don't turn off.
Right.
So I am me. I get up on platform and my wife is shaking her head and saying, don't go, stop, because I'm me. I don't try to get crazy, but we were having fun conversations, but I've had to tame, like every day I'm saying, God, put a guard over my mouth and a gate over my lips so that I don't sin against you. Because my mouth has gotten me in so much trouble in my life that I've had to just say, I don't joke. I don't say certain things. Why? Because I will go crazy.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's a healthy self-awareness for sure.
And so, but I think ministry is our life as believers. We are first followers of Jesus. We're first children of God. So and then, let's go back to family. I have 4 people that I want to see in heaven.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they've made their full mind up yet. So I have not just 18 years, I have however long I'm alive to be an example for them. So when they're in their 20s and 30s, I want them to see their dad in his 60s and 70s. I want them to see vibrancy and on fire for Jesus only increasing, not decreasing.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with this church.
Yeah.
It has, you know what I mean? It has nothing to do with any of it.
Absolutely.
But it makes it so much easier because now I can just live my life. I have my issues, but I mean, it's simple.
Yeah. I love it. I got to go back to that perspective of, like you said, who am I, honestly, is what you're saying in all this, and why has God chosen me? And like I said, I mentioned humbling, and that's really what it should be, but that's I've just never heard it framed that way. And it's actually, I'm laughing because I'm like, should that hurt, or should,
Yeah.
Right.
or should that inspire me? It for sure should push me towards growth. And I don't have what it takes. I don't have this all figured out. Doesn't matter how long I've been doing it. And I will mess it up if I don't have that healthy perspective. So that's really what that is.
And yeah, it's not inferiority, right?
Right.
It's like what Paul says in Romans when he says in Romans 12, he basically says, like, have a healthy understanding of yourself.
Yeah. In
light of the rest of the body that has all these gifts.
Right.
Don't think of yourself more highly than you ought to. And then he starts listing all the gifts that everybody else has, and you kind of go, Paul, where you just finished saying renew your mind. Yeah. And then you said, but don't think more, don't think too. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that reality. And so I think, but then it goes back to the Sunday school answer though, right? Because it is about Jesus. Paul, right? I can do all things through Jesus. So I love when Paul says, I'm the least among all of the apostles. Mm-hmm. I'm the least among all of them. Like, how is it that I get this amazing privilege to bring the good news to the Gentiles? And then another spot, it may be the same spot where he says, I am who I am by the grace of God. But then he goes, but I don't allow that, I'm paraphrasing it, because I don't allow that grace to just be for naught. I work harder than everybody else. So I max out the grace that God has given me, knowing that the only reason I'm able to do all the stuff I'm able to do is because of the grace of God. Yeah. But I don't just sit there and say, well, the grace helps. No, I take that grace and I max the mess out of it. Yeah. Right? Like it's I can do it all, but it's not because I'm so good. It's because he's so good. But I take what he gives me and I use it, and then he keeps. And then it's just this amazing, I think, balance that God allows us to jump into. Yeah. And good. I'm trying to get there. I have not obtained that for sure.
Oh, no. And I don't hear that at all of like, I've got this figured out. That's what it should be. Any of that. It's very much a as you go, work in progress, for sure. Yeah. I just really appreciate it's a really great and healthy ministry perspective that we should all hold. I really, really like it. Jordan, you've mentioned a couple times about raising up leaders and specifically maybe ministry leaders, or those can be lay leaders. Especially as you have just defined for us, there really is no distinction versus vocation maybe for people. What is your approach? Because everybody is different when it comes to specifically investing in, empowering, and even sending and deploying leaders. Where do you start? Like, where does that start with you?
With raising them up and
like what drives you in that? Yeah.
I think I'm still learning that. I think I've never been in any team that I've served on. I've never been the best. I think I've always been underqualified. I think I have not, most of the time I have not been the first choice for these roles that I've played. If I would be honest with myself. Sure. And so I think one of the things that does is it gives me a healthy fear that I can't do it. Even if I wanted to be the man, I can't be the man. Yeah. And so, as much as pride tries to come in at times, I get humbled pretty quick. I feel like when I start trying to figure it all out or do it myself. So I think that's the first thing is I realize I can't do it. Yeah. That's good. I literally, I can't do it. And that's not I've learned some things. So I could maybe fake it on some things, but I can't, especially for what I would love to see happen, what I think God is calling us to as a church and what I feel like the Lord's called me to in life. I can't do it on my own. with my own strength, my own ability. So I first need Jesus, but then I love team. I played football. I ran track too, and I hated track. And the biggest reason I hated track was because I was always out there by myself.
Hmm.
I just never liked. I tried to play baseball because we had to in high school we had to play a spring sport if we played football, and I tried playing baseball, but I didn't have experience. Like they were like, "You're okay. You're good enough, but you've never played Pee Wee baseball, or I don't even think it's Pee Wee baseball. It's Little League or whatever they call it for."
Right. Sure.
I don't play baseball, but I was just trying to run bases or something, just be on a team, and they were like, "You don't have enough experience." So I was like, "Well, I guess I got to run track. That's the spring sport," and I hated it. Absolutely hated it because you're just by yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's any fun to be by yourself. I like solitude, but I don't like doing stuff I don't like going to restaurants by myself. I don't like watching TV or movies by myself.
Yep.
Right? Like I want to enjoy things with other people. I hate traveling alone. Like my wife doesn't like to fly, but I'm like forcing her to fly with me different flights because I want to experience it with her. I just don't think life is supposed to be alone.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so I think that's where I start. Is it's more fun being on a team. I think you get a lot more accomplished on a team, and I don't think I'm the best. I don't think that's why I'm in this role that I'm in, is because I'm so good. I think there's a lot, and I look at the people that God has placed around me and in our church, and I just think there are some amazing people. Why am I wearing myself out trying to do all this?
Yeah.
But then it's the directive. I think the other part of it is it's the job description. Read Ephesians 4, everybody. Like that's the job description, right? Is equip the saints for the work of the ministry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that it will grow, mature, and be able to stand against all these demonic winds in the world that are trying to take the church and the people down. So if I can get people fulfilling their call, serving in their ministry, doing what they're supposed to be doing, the church is built up, strong, edified. And if we ever have another year like COVID, where there's so many questions, so many uncertainty, the church will stand strong.
Yeah, it's good.
And I think 2020 showed how much we were not doing that as pastors. Otherwise, why do you have so much deconstruction in so many churches falling apart? Could it be that those winds were blowing and the people were not involved in their work, in their ministry? And so many pastors got found out for being the ministry.
Yeah.
So when we planted our church, and I say it to our congregation, my goal, I hope, and it's an aspirational goal. Like I got to kill my pride whenever I say this, but this really so it's like my spirit speaking, not my flesh. My goal is when someone comes to the church, they have a hard time figuring out who the senior pastor is. Because the people are so equipped and the people carry the culture and the heart of the house so much. The people see themselves as the ministers of the house, that they're being spoken to like they're talking to us, like where people would say, how many staff members are here?
Yeah.
How many people, how many pastors do they have? And they find out, oh no, that guy, he cleans the toilets. Why? Because everybody's a minister.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just the equipper, I'm the coach. And so does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's kind of where I look at it all.
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful that you used that word. I know it's scriptural, but it's one that we lose sight of, especially even in senior leadership. It's the equipping portion. That is the role to equip. And like how you said, we look back on those moments in history, and those kind of things do reveal what has been equipped or what has not. And that's so key and so critical. When you're walking with others, what is your approach? Is it is it structured? Is it not necessarily strategic, but is it kind of as you go type of a thing? What have you found has been most effective when you're walking with others within that?
You mean like to equip them, like so they can do
Yes.
the ministry?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I think a lot of right now, I'm learning it in a different way right now because I've always been serving another person's vision.
Yeah.
So, even as I say, this is part of that was just instilled in me because that's how I was trained.
Yeah.
And
sure.
so now, how do I do it as a senior pastor now? I think it's just relational. Like right now, I just, before I got here, I just came back from, we do a life group and we just meet at the Starbucks right down the street. And I just have a couple of guys. And the reason we started this group was because I wanted to help one of our leaders at our church grow in his leadership and in his walk with Jesus. And sometimes for people you need camaraderie, you need the pacing. And I thought, well, I'm already praying. I'm already in the Word. I'm already journaling. I'm already doing these things to keep my fire going, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think that's the foundation of ministry is you got to be burning.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's the best thing you can give to people is Jesus.
Yeah.
So not a thought of Jesus, but give him to them. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what they said that's what they said about the early disciples. These guys are stupid, is what they said.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The Greek is literally it means idiots, but they were obviously had been with Jesus.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
So, I think, well, I may be stupid. I may not have all the stuff. I may not have all the experience, but if I can be with Jesus, and if I can teach other people to go back to home base, just be with Jesus, do those things, fast, pray, read, listen to the word, worship, do those things to be in fellowship with him. I can train you on the leader. I cannot train that, but what I can do is I can try to get you into an atmosphere for that. So I can show you what it looks like. So every week, so it started with just me and him, and then I invited a couple of other guys to come, and then they invited a couple of guys. But what's amazing is we're sitting around this table. We're basically taking over Starbucks, and we're reading, we're journaling, we're sharing, and we're praying. And what's so cool is they get to evangelize too. So then they're learning these things of it's not about Sunday morning, it's about what you're doing.
Right.
So we were a couple weeks ago, we were sitting there sharing, and this guy came up. He's from Fort Wayne, and he goes, "Hey, can you guys pray for me?" He interrupted us, and he's like, "Excuse me, can I interrupt?" I'm like, "What's up?" He goes, "Can you guys pray for me?" "Oh, sure." Pray for him, minister to him, because my dad's a pastor out in Indiana. But man, and he's going through stuff this morning. A guy, "What are you guys doing?" Asking. And so one of the guys at the table, he's sharing, and I'm being goofy. I'm just me all the time. So I'm like, "We're studying the Bible," and so just I'm being obnoxious a little bit. I'm just kind of being. Because he thought we were college students. And I'm like, "Thank you for thinking I'm a college student." Maybe he wasn't talking to me. Maybe he was just talking to them.
It's your beard game.
That's probably what it was. He probably thought, he probably wasn't looking at me. He was looking at them. And I just inserted myself.
Yeah, you're for sure the professor. Yeah.
But within there, actually, there's an older guy than me that's there. And he's an Englishman or Scottishman. So he actually would be the professor.
Nice.
But it was cool because I just said, "Hey, invite him, pull your invite card." And he's looking at me like, "What?" I'm like, "Invite him to church." And he gets up and goes over there. But I just finished doing that this past week on my own when I was going to get a new cell phone for my daughter, her first cell phone. But I was talking to the guy at the store, And so I'm living it. You live it.
Right.
So I think it's relational. This is how I live.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's the practical or pragmatic side of leadership. So, systems and, leadership skills and all that. But I think it keeps coming back to, listen, if you'll tap into the Lord, the skills, like we can train the skills, but I cannot train attaching to the vine, so to speak.
Right.
So I think it's just relational, and I go back to that simple. And then I'm learning as a leader too. So as I learn, I'm trying to give it back. I'm trying to give it to them.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
So I've been senior pastoring now for not even 3 years.
Okay.
So this is partly why I don't get asked questions, because I'm still learning. What you guys have been senior pastor much longer than I have been. What are what's your top lessons learned? Like your number one, like if you would say, avoid this or think about this, make sure you have this in mind, what would you say?
Wow. Okay. So I'm not used to, in this format, having to answer. And that's a really good question.
I can speak to it if you need a minute.
No, yeah, please prime it.
I think you touched on it as you were talking of relationship. You can't teach people. You can teach people how to get to Jesus, but like the relationship of that, keep that. If you, as you go through every season, in those seasons where things aren't, it's just like at home, right? If things aren't good with your wife, home is not the best, most fun place to be at. It's just not as like, you're supposed to be there, the things that you're supposed to do. And yet there's a tension. Yeah. If there is tension in that relationship with the Lord, when you go to minister, you're supposed to, the things that God's called you to. And yet if there's tension, that also, it creates a disconnect so I would say, make sure, keep your relationship with the Lord, current, connected, full of life, and that the life space of it, you have your ups and downs of life, but that is the most important. And then your family, so much of when things aren't good at home, and you're trying to press forward in leadership at the church, it comes through whether you like it or not in the way that you teach and lead. And so like, get that healthy. And sometimes that means that you have to stop something, program, whatever, for the sake of, my family's my ministry and I want them to be,
it's good.
I'm with them long-term, right? That my goal is to make it forever with my family. My assignment in this moment might be this church or this season, but they don't live with me at home. They don't have to, I have to live, and that's got to be, and there's seasons of whatever, but working towards health there.
Yeah, that's good. I agree with all of that. So I won't spin that in my own way. But as he was talking, I think you have already said some of this. But I think the biggest thing for me is to just always maintain. I think I've had to learn the hard way in a lot of seasons, and still even today, is to always be surrendered in whatever I'm doing, and to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Because, so I'm a strategic thinker, planner, and I do think that the Lord has gifted me in that way to work in tandem with him, but not at the sake that I have it figured out. And this is the way that we need to stick. And so, I think of seasons where I've gotten myself spun out. Maybe that's just the best way of saying that. It's because it's not going the way I thought it should, or what I have planned. And, the lesson from last year, this is fresh. So you're getting it fresh. Was that if I'm in something, even if it's unexpected, unplanned, or unpleasant, yes, I did just do alliteration there. and so God has smiled. That God still brought me there, and that there is still something in that. And coming into this year, I didn't want to have to relearn that lesson. And so for me, practically, it's like, okay, I need to find the joy in these spaces, not making the best of a bad situation, but what is the things that I can actually, what is God doing in this, and what can I actually celebrate, even if I feel like there's nothing to celebrate, and all the complexities of the emotions and things that come with that, but that God still brought me there. And so in that space, keeping that focus, but also asking, like I said, God, what are you doing? What am I doing? Am I even doing what I'm supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be learning? What do I lack? What do I lack? Because sometimes we're not even aware of that. And what do I need from you? But then to also ask boldly within that for those things. I think that whole strategic planning thing can work against me in that, well, I'll just figure this out first and then ask if that was what you wanted. And that takes quite a bit of unlearning, honestly, to lead with that instead and go. So I think it's if we're talking about kind of simple idea of just humility, and I think it's kind of been funny, the further into ministry I've gone, so I don't know, 20 plus years now, I feel like the less I know, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, like, you should have this figured out. And it doesn't mean that, there are definitely, core competencies that I have gleaned and that, I can pass along and that type of a thing, but I still don't have it all figured out. And ministry is such a moving target anyway, especially as we define it. I have to be surrendered in that. So I think that's probably my biggest takeaway. Nice. So let me flip this on you then, and we'll get you out on this. Even though it's just been 3 years, you still have some, you've got some distance on it. So what is your big takeaway when it comes to ministry, and like what you just presented the question to us?
I think at every assignment, and I think in this assignment especially, what I've learned maybe the most is it's less about what I'm doing, like what I can accomplish. Like it's more about who I'm becoming, and what the Lord is like. As our church is growing, I feel like I'm probably the one that's growing the most, in the sense of being developed and being reshaped. I think understanding the mission that we're all on in a different way. Like, I don't think I've ever cared this much about making disciples.
Right.
But it's the heart of Jesus. Like, I've always known the Great Commission is what it's about, but oh my goodness, I've never cared this much about trying to get the people to catch. It's all about fulfilling the Great Commission. But it's not because because I'm trying to do something for God. It's, man, he's trying to mature me and mold me and help me to be who he originally meant for me to be. And I think that's taken some of the stress off, because then when I come back to the Lord and I'm starting, what about this, God? And I start freaking out or asking questions or start pressuring, or feeling, I'm not good enough, or is this ever really going to work? Or, God, am I displeasing you? Of course, fruitfulness matters. I think it definitely matters. But I think personally, I think it's been rewarding getting to know him better.
Yeah.
Like getting to know Jesus better. And I think that's partly why when I'm, you asked earlier about raising people up. I think that's one of the reasons I keep bringing them back to that more so than ever before, because I'm realizing the joy of ministry and the joy of like the heartbeat of all of this is not trying to do a bunch of stuff for God. It is about getting to know him more and becoming more like him and becoming who I'm supposed to be in him. And I know I said simple, but I think that's the simplicity of life. You know what I mean? Is if we can keep it like that, I think even like the fluctuation of attendance and baptisms and, whatever else that we're looking at measuring, those truly just become dashboards rather than targets.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're looking at yourself and like, I don't know, you just kind of go like, God, am I being who you want me to be? And then you're looking at people and you're going, I think the compassion rises up for them, because you think, oh man, I just want you to be, I see who you could be. And I just want to see you see that and realize it and fulfill it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing I'm learning the most and enjoying the most about ministry right now is the stuff is cool, but whether we have a full house or no one in the house, I know I got something from being with God. So
yeah.
Anyway,
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, Jordan, I really just appreciate your perspective and humility within that. And even, some people would think simple is not like their favorite word, or and I think maybe that could be some of the problems. We do overthink it, but the way you've presented it today, it's just so practical, and it's not simplistic. I think it's just something that we can just get at if we can just keep that. So thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me and letting me talk.
It was a pleasure for us as well. It was. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you'd like to connect further with our guest, we've made ways to do so available in the episode show notes. If you'd like to connect with us further, support the podcast, or sign up for show updates, just go to withouthatingit.com to get started. And don't forget to subscribe to Ministry Without Hating It wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss our future episode releases. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.